All right, so I'm recording. Okay, so tonight we're talking about why why does everybody say no to me? So we'll go over um, just two of the most popular reasons to give you of why people may be saying no to you, and a few things that you can implement into your sales techniques that hopefully will help that. So, and please pipe in if you have any questions or any comments or any experiences or whatever about this as we go along. It's pretty short. It should only take us like 15 minutes. So, the first thing is human psychology. We want to say no, or we feel like we have to say no anytime somebody asks us a question, typically speaking, right? Anytime somebody asks us a question and we think they're asking for something, right? Our walls go up and we want to say no. If you think about that, like when a telemarketer calls, right? Like what's your first, no matter what they ask, what do you want to say? No, right? So, um, so instead, see if you can ask a different question that will allow them to get that first no out of the way, but asking them a question in which no is a positive response. So, say you're calling somebody that you're following up with, and instead of saying, is now a good time to talk? Because if now is a good time to talk, the first thing they want to say is no. Instead, say, did I catch you at a bad time? They can say no. And then you're, oh, good. Well, this will only take a few minutes, and I just wanted to follow up with you, and, da 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 da. So, anyway, so that's a good tip, especially if you're calling somebody. And then secondly, another way to get them to say yes is to ask, and we've gone over some of this before, but is to ask them questions that are going to help them say yes to you like multiple times throughout the class, so that then you already have them nodding their heads and saying yes to you, so that when you get to the close, they're more comfortable saying yes to you. So for instance, if you can ask a question at the end of each oil, like as you're going through 10 oils, that will allow them to say yes. So, and you may have noticed, like I try to actually do this in our Facebook class, our 101. So, like lavender is so good to help with, de-stressing and relaxation and with sleep. And couldn't we all use some better sleep? Yeah, we could. Or deep blue, like, oh, wouldn't this be a great one to have on hand for when you've got those aches and pains or sports injuries? Yeah, that would be a good one. So anyway, so hopefully that will help. And then the third thing is that when you do get to the close is to kind of try to contain yourself a little bit. So by that I mean asking them, so if you were to get a kit today, which one would you prefer? And then waiting for them to answer, like don't say anything until they answer. And then when they do say, oh, I would like to get the Home Essentials kit, then you just say, great, would you like to get it? And then to not say anything. And this is seriously like the hardest part, I think, for most of us. Because if there's silence, it makes us uncomfortable. And then we have to talk, and we don't always say the best things when we're then nervous and just feeling that uncomfortable silence. So if you can just sit in the silence, because silence is not a bad thing. A lot of times it's allowing them to think about it and to process through the idea and listening. Maybe they're listing all the pros and cons. We have no idea, right, what's going through their mind. And a lot of times we start mind reading and guessing about what they might be thinking, and then we start spewing out information based on what we think or are afraid that they might be thinking. So I read once in a sales book, I wish I could remember which one it was, but they basically said the first one to talk loses. So when you go ahead and ask, which kit would you like to get, or would you like to get it, right? If you're talking, if you start talking after that, you're going to lose the sale. Does that make sense? And if they're talking, then that's good. Like, So I hate to say that they lose, but do you guys get what I'm saying behind that concept? So then it's more likely that they're going to purchase because then they have an opportunity to talk themselves into it. And the other thing is sometimes somebody just needs to talk it out. They just might start saying, well, I don't know, and da 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 da, and start going on, and just allow them to talk. Like, just sit on it and don't interrupt. Don't feel like you have to justify or explain anything to them, but just to let them continue to talking. Because a lot of times what's going to happen is then they're going to come to their own decision on their own, right? Like, I don't know how many of you me, but I talk to myself a lot because it helps me make decisions. If I can say it out loud, it's going to help me decide what it is that I really want to do. And then the last instance where sometimes it can get uncomfortable is if there's a husband and wife at the class or the one-on-one, and they're talking about it amongst themselves or together. And I've been in a few circumstances where that can sometimes get a little, it seems like it's heated, but you don't know, like, and then you feel really bad that you've like caused this marital distress, but you haven't. And it's so hard to just sit and still allow them to make that decision, right? Like, we don't need to jump in and say, well, you don't have to get it. Like, there's no pressure. You've already removed the pressure to buy, right? Earlier on in the beginning. So they know there's no pressure to buy. So let them go ahead and have their conversation. In that circumstance, go if you need to, like, hop on your phone and look busy or clean something up. But if you can, to just sit there and allow them to talk or be quiet or whatever it is that they need to do through their decision-making process without necessarily speeding them up. So have any of you guys ever had any instances where you've butchered that because you've started talking? Because I know I have, like, a few times, or times where it's been uncomfortable because there's been silence, or they've just talked it out and decided what they wanted to do.
Well, one time it was uncomfortable for me. The husband was like at the house on a one-on-one, and he kept just like walking in and out of the kitchen, like kind of listening, but not. And it was just really awkward. I was like, this is so weird. But she ended up signing up, so I guess it was good.
That is good. And who knows, right? Like, we have no idea, like,
what happened,
like what anybody's relationship is or what their dynamics are or anything. Because sometimes things like that can be weird for us, but it's not weird for them. I have been in circumstances like that where the husband and wife were talking, and they were literally like, I'm going to mute you, Penny, for just a minute. Okay, so the husband and wife were literally like almost not arguing, but like she was like, well, I really want to get it, but do we have money? And he's like, I guess we have money. And she's like, well, then I feel bad because it's your money. Like, you're the one who earned it. And I don't know, it's not my money, so it's up to you. Anyway, it was just kind of this funny, like, little awkward exchange that they were having. But that was their decision and their thing, right? Like, and they totally came to a decision, but it was probably 5 minutes of a bit uncomfortableness while they were talking it out. And I've also had other instances too where people just sit there and they just sit there and they're not saying anything, but you can just see those wheels are just spinning, and it's so hard to not say anything and to just kind of sit in silence with them. Because for me, that is incredibly uncomfortable. But for them, the time is going quickly because it's consumed with thoughts. And then I've also, for sure, been in the one where it's that one lady, the ones who can't contain themselves. Every single thing you say, they have to make a comment, and they have to say something about everything. You know those people in your class, right? And I had one of those one time, and I had never been interrupted as many times while I was teaching a class ever, I don't think. But at the end of the class, let's see. Okay, Leaf, I'm going to die. Okay. But the end of the class, surprise, surprise, guess what she did? But she talked herself into which kit she wanted, because we asked her the question and then she just sat there and talked it all out until she decided, yep, this is the one I want to get. But she had to talk it out literally to us for a good, gosh, probably 10 minutes. So anyway, so those are just a few different experiences that I wanted to pass on to you guys that I hope will help with the closing and with the class, with the no questions and asking the yes questions throughout the class, and then a few different ways to handle those sometimes uncomfortable situations that can happen at the end of a class, but aren't necessarily a bad thing. So, any questions or comments or experiences? Doesn't have to be related to this either. It can be about anything. No? Okay. All right. And Penny, did you have any other questions? I muted you. I just unmuted you.
Okay. What about money? It seems like people will talk about that sometimes, like, oh, it's too expensive.
Okay. So a lot of times when people will say, oh, it's too expensive, or I don't know if I can afford it. Okay. Well, there's a few different ways to go here. Okay. So a lot of times if people say it's too expensive, or I don't know if I can afford that, what they're basically asking is, please help show me how I can afford this, or how I can justify this. So with that, then you could pose a question with them. Well, for instance, what does it cost you when you're sick for a day? How much does that cost you? Like, do you miss work? Do you not get paid? Do you have to go to the doctors? Do you have to get prescriptions? Like, have them tally up all that stuff. And then just say, well, the price of a kid is this. What if it saved you from being sick 2 days in a year? Would it pay for itself? So maybe finding a way like that they can see how they can afford it, or how they can justify it. Or another way here is to go with the drop-down price, right? To offer an intro kit for a smaller amount. So the small intro kit of the lavender, lemon, and peppermint, we can buy those for $20 plus tax. So sell them for $30. And then that's a lower price point. And then that allows them to use the oil and see how much they're going to use it, and then decide if they want to enroll or not. And that's a great one too for people who need to talk to their husband, or are worried about their husbands having them spend too much. So does that help answer that question there, Penny, about that?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And I just thought of one more option actually. So then the last one obviously is to then talk to them about the business option, and without getting too much into it, right? But allowing them to enroll, but then hosting a class so that they can get the fast starts back to help pay for their kit. So that's another option. Okay. Or maybe you're open to allowing them to earn some oils from you for hosting a class or giving referrals. Mm-hmm. I'm always good for that too. Like, hey, if you want to give me which oils that you really want, based upon how much it is, mm-hmm. then okay, great. Give me 3 referrals for a lemon or 5 referrals for a peppermint.
Right.
And people like to do that too, because then they're earning it.
Right. Do you ever have people say oh, maybe it was just a coincidence? I had this friend, she had a sinus infection. I was like, hey, try this sinus balm. Gave it to her the next day. She's like, oh yeah, I feel so much better. But maybe it was just a coincidence because it was starting to go away. And I said, well, it doesn't sound like it's completely gone. Do you want a couple more days? She's like, yeah. And then by the next day, she was completely fine. But she's like, well, I'll have to wait and see if I get a sinus infection again and take it right at the beginning.
Isn't that funny?
Okay. Yeah.
But that means but that's good, right? Because she's figuring it out. She's
She's if it works again, I'm for sure buying it. I'm for sure in.
Oh, for sure. She's figuring out if the oils work or not. Because that was me the first time I used one. I was like, well, maybe.
She's like, maybe it's just a coincidence.
Yeah, but maybe it wasn't. So I would totally just say, you know what? Maybe it was, but wouldn't it be so cool if it wasn't? So promise me that the next time you have any ailment you'll let me know
Mhm.
so we can do another experiment and see if it's
Right.
another coincidence or not. So I would totally take it on as the fun experiment that she wants it to be and that she's seeing it as, because she's in that discovery phase.
Okay.
So yeah, that's what I would do. But Lindsay or Diana, sorry, I totally blanked on your name and it wasn't showing up on your screen. Do you either of you guys have any suggestions for how else you answer those questions? Oh, I muted you, but I can unmute you. Just a minute.
What did you say, Melissa?
Oh, I just said,
It froze right when you said it.
Oh, sorry. So do you have any other ways of how you answer that question? If somebody says, like,
I
that
get stuck on that one.
maybe it was a coincidence that the oil worked?
I don't know. I get
No?
stuck on the money one because
Oh, the money one.
gratefully I live right next to one of the other super cheap distributors.
Oh,
Yeah.
so you get the
So
money
it's a-
problem a lot, or the money
it's a
issue?
huge fight between why do I want to pay the cost for doTERRA's when Butterfly Express is a third of the price?
Yeah.
Well,
Oh yeah, I have a friend in my neighborhood. She was ordering from Butterfly Express, and she was trying to get a bunch of people to do like a bulk order.
yeah.
So, because if she does a bulk order of butterflies, she gets them cheaper?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have a hard time with the money part because they're a lot cheaper at Butterfly. But she
Yeah.
also gets them in giant vats, and they're never the same.
Yeah.
She never gets them from the same place or anything.
Yeah.
But
So, and that's hard. I
in a
mean, and you
poor-minded
know the
town.
answer to that, though, right? Is to just go into
Yeah.
the doTERRA. I mean, you know that, right? Like, that's the only way to answer
know.
that, right? Is with what makes doTERRA different.
It's also a very poor-minded area.
Yeah. Yeah, that's hard. That is really hard. Mm.
But no, I don't have any suggestions for the coincidence because I get stuck there too.
Oh, and Diana says she's feeding baby, so she can't talk, but she figured out how to chat. That's very exciting. So yeah, I think the coincidence thing, I would totally just go with how fun it is to like take on that challenge of that experiment.
Right.
And like get excited with her about it. Lindsay, gosh, the money thing is hard with Butterfly Express being so cheap, but it's hard because like the only answer is to go into doTERRA, you know, like, or of why doTERRA is different, and with the promise that, you know what, when you see the doTERRA label, you know it's a product you can trust, and you know that the quality is going to be second to none, and there's nothing else you can say really at that point, unless you were to give them, like, you know, if it was somebody who was fence sitting, then I would possibly give them like a sample of something to compare to the other essential oil. But then you'd have to really think about what oil is one that they could see a good comparison with, because some of them are so like that they can't smell the differences, and other ones you can. Okay, look at it in a minute. Okay. Right here. So any other questions though? No, I'm gonna do it.
Nope, I'm good.
Are you sure?
Mm-hmm.
We need to do one on, let's see, you can also mention, so Diana said also mention source2.com. That's true when talking quality versus the cheaper stuff. So Lindsay, that was a good idea too. Did you hear that one from Diana?
Yeah, I will have to check that out. I haven't ever looked at that.
Oh, really? Source2. So that's, you know what it is, right? Where they can enter in the code from the batch.
Oh, right. Yes, I do. I just haven't looked at it very much.
Yeah, and see all the time. You know what? Honestly, I haven't looked at it either. Brandon, that's Brandon's realm. He does that thing. We have our things. But yeah, that is a good idea. So yeah, Diana, thanks for bringing that up. That's a good, very good.
I forgot all about that now.
Yep. Yeah, because that's a newer thing. But when they announced it, it was when they announced it, we had to wait a while before it was available. So I kind of forgot about it, honestly, because we got all excited about it and then it wasn't ready. We were like, oh. So yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway. So yeah, but that is a good one. All righty. You sure no more questions, guys? I don't ever feel like you don't have
Yeah, I think so.
opportunity. Okay, you're good. Okay.
I think I'm good. Tell Max
Awesome.
to get feeling better.
Oh, thank you.